afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a joint session of the Public Safety and Government Operations Committees, and we have two items. And so the first item on our agenda is Bill 39-21, Taxation, Public Safety Officers, Public Safety Emergency Communications Specialist, Property Tax Credit. This is sponsored by lead sponsors, then Council President Hucker, and then Council Vice President Albornoz, with co-sponsors myself, Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Katz, Fritzen, and Jawanda, Glass, and Rice. This was introduced on October 19th, 2021. A public hearing was held on November 9th, 2021. So the General Assembly authorized the county to enact a property tax credit for certain public safety officers and for certain public safety emergency communications specialists. The annual property tax credit must not exceed $2,500 or the total amount of property tax owed. The employee must be a legal owner of the property, and the property must be the principal residence of the employee. The county is authorized to establish additional eligibility requirements for the property tax credit. This bill will establish a county property tax credit for a full-time sworn police officer, firefighter, emergency medical technician, or a public safety emergency communications specialist employed by the county. The bill will authorize the maximum $2,500 credit for an eligible employee. The purpose of the bill is to increase the number of county employees occupying these positions who reside in the county and help recruit and retain these employees. I will also note that we have received information and correspondence regarding inclusion of our EMS and also volunteer firefighters, which we will definitely discuss, because I do agree that they are pivotal in the services provided to our residents, and we should recognize that. So we will deliberate on that as well. The county's attorney office has concluded that the bill has no legal impediments, but they point out that the bill would grant a benefit to eligible employees that could be negotiated in collective bargaining with employee unions, even though the council has the authority to mandate this benefit through legislative action outside the collective bargaining process. The Department of Finance estimates that overall the bill would cost approximately $2.2 million. And the Office of Legislative Oversight estimates that the bill would have a positive impact on economic conditions in the county by increasing the net income of these employees and thereby increasing the ability to purchase goods and services from county businesses. OLO estimates that the bill will have a negative impact on racial equity and social justice in the county because the eligible public safety personnel that would own eligible properties are disproportionately white. OLO made two suggestions to lessen the negative impact, and they're included in the packet, and so we appreciate that observation. So with that, I do want to again thank my colleague Council Member Katz, who's the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and everybody else. I did see the Council President Albornoz has asked to speak, so we will do that. And lastly, what I will say is that I just want to express my deep appreciation to all of our emergency and safety personnel. And I know we have had 1,000 million conversations about how do we promote also community engagement with all of our personnel. And this issue of being able to live in the county has come up time and time again. And I think that especially through this pandemic, we have seen how important it is to try to find any way to incentivize and also attract quality and qualified personnel into our county service. And so hopefully this is one tool that we can employ, and that I know, again, because of all the sponsorships that my colleagues feel that it would be an important step forward to consider. So before turning it over to Mr. Drummer and everybody else, I do want to acknowledge Council President Albornoz.
Thank you so much, Chair Navarro, and you laid it out perfectly as always, so I will be brief in my comments, just to, as you said, publicly acknowledge the selfless sacrifice and contributions of our first responders here in our community. We know that right now, 65% of our police workforce is eligible for retirement as we speak. And we also know that this most recent class of cadets that came through that I had the opportunity to speak at their graduation for was one of the smallest we've had in a very long time. And this is not an issue that is unique to Montgomery County. This is an issue facing our entire country and in fire and rescue as well. We know that there are ongoing challenges and the critical nature of these positions. While we're having conversations about ensuring that all of our communities feel that they are equitably being protected among our first responders, we also have to acknowledge how difficult these jobs are, and that there are multiple layers to this. But as we address issues of salary and compensation, as we address ensuring that our rhetoric is such that it acknowledges those sacrifices, we also have to pull the other levers that we have available, and this is one of them. And I do want to thank our General Assembly for allowing local jurisdictions to have this opportunity, because as we've learned in Howard County, our neighboring jurisdiction who has enacted this, this does make a difference. And as Chair Navarro noted, it also is undeniably a best practice that having first responders live in the communities that they serve benefits the entire community. When relationships are established, context is set, and a better understanding of how communities work happens, it helps all of us. It raises all boats. And I very much concur with the recommendations to expand this to include our volunteer workforce, which does such an outstanding job. And I also want to very much acknowledge and thank our Office of Legislative Oversight and the Racial Equity Analysis, which has presented two very thoughtful recommendations, which I think make a lot of sense. But again, this is intended to raise all boats. And the final thing I'll note, Chair Navarro, is that we know there are other categories of positions where we're also struggling with recruitment and retention. And as this council noted when this bill was introduced, we look forward to working with our General Assembly to expand this opportunity to other critical frontline positions in nursing and social work and case management, teachers, so many other positions where we are struggling right now. But at the moment, this is the opportunity we have before us, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I do want to thank Councilmember Hucker and his team in particular for working collaboratively on this, and on my team, Lillian Cruz, my Deputy Chief of Staff, who ran point and brought this opportunity to my attention. And then we later found out Council President Hucker was working on this too. So we combined efforts, and I want to end by just thanking all of my colleagues for co-sponsorship and your steadfast support, as we have all along, for our first responders, and in particular, Chairman Katz, the chair of our Public Safety Committee. So thank you so much, Chair Navarro, for indulging me with those comments and context. But I just wanted to say those few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our colleague, Councilmember Friedson, has joined us. He had to attend a funeral, so we appreciate that he made his way back, because I know that he's also very supportive of this particular bill and what we intend to address. And I do want to say publicly that I always appreciate when colleagues work together, because there are times when great ideas just pop and everybody wants to work on them. And it's not always a smooth collaboration, and I think that we need to elevate every single time that happens. So I appreciate that. Councilmember Hucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really agree with everything that's been said. I'm grateful to Councilmember Albornoz for working together on this, and Chairman Katz. You know, our two committees know very well all the troubling trends in recruitment and retention within our first responder community, and have sat through countless briefings on the attrition rates in our emergency call center, and the overtime and the training costs in our fire and rescue service. And this has been going on for a very long time. And the new data only makes the argument for this bill stronger since we introduced it. And I really appreciate what Council President Albornoz said about the relationships that are strengthened in the context that's strengthened when first responders and all of our county employees, as many as possible, live in the community. Not that you can't be invested in Montgomery County if you don't live here. I don't want to suggest that at all. But anyone who lives here 24/7 is simply going to absorb more. And all of us benefit if county employees of all stripes spend their money in our local economy, worship at our local houses of worship, attend our local civic associations, and build neighborhood relationships with people that do other things. I grew up in a neighborhood that was full of firefighters and some police and many construction workers and others, and they were all very invested in the local neighborhood and the community, in a town of 5,000 people outside a big city. And I think it's sort of it's sort of obvious that the community benefits that accrue when you can address the high housing costs that deter our first responders and others from living in Montgomery County. So I'm excited about the bill. I'm glad we're finally at this stage. I mentioned my bucket list on Tuesday when we introduced we're moving ahead with the prevailing wage bill, and this one's been on my bucket list for a long time as well. So glad to have all of your support and interest in this important topic. Thank you.
To start emptying those bucket list type things, right? Councilmember.
Right.
Thank you very much. It's tough to follow Councilmember Hawker's bucket list, but I just want to say very publicly what has already been said very publicly, and that is this has been a long time coming, and I guess we do need to hear the packet before we all start saying what we're going to do. But this has been a long time coming. We've all agreed that we need to help our public service people more than we ever have. They are doing more in some cases with less, and it's very tough for them to recruit. And I do believe that it's very necessary to very publicly thank our volunteer firefighters. We have all said time and time again that if we had to pay the volunteers for what they are doing, the millions and millions and millions of dollars that it would cost, in addition to the amount of lives they have saved, just like the career firefighters and just like our police officers, the amount of lives that they have saved is immeasurable. So I stand ready to vote for this, and I believe that we do need to add the volunteers to that list. And so therefore, I am most appreciative that we are here today. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I want to also thank our guests for being here. We have representatives from Mr. Jenna Wren, president of the UFCW, Local 1994 McGU. We do have Mr. Nick Hahn, and also, of course, Mr. Eric Bernard from the Volunteer Firefighters. Really appreciate that, and representing also our esteemed police department. And we do have Jerry Fecky here as well. And so hopefully we can now turn to Mr. Drummer to walk us through the packet and also the decision points, as well as consider relevant amendments.
Okay, good afternoon. As has already been said, this bill would implement a state law that authorizes the county to provide a property tax credit up to $2,500, and this bill goes to the maximum of $2,500 for a public safety worker, which is defined in the bill as a police officer, a firefighter, or emergency medical technician. The bill also includes, there's a separate state law for our community, what are they called? They're called public safety emergency communication specialists. That's what the bill includes. The state law does have authority to include correctional officers and volunteer firefighters as well, but that's not in the current bill. There's a fiscal and economic impact described in the packet in the staff report. To get exact numbers is probably impossible because it's going to change. It changes over time. In order to qualify, you have to be an employee in one of these positions employed by the county, and you have to be the legal owner of a residence in the county of which you consider your to which you live in. I think it's 6 months out of 12 months, and it's your actual residence and not just like a vacation home or something like that. The finance went through and found that of what's in the bill right now, there are 2,546 property addresses that may be a principal residence for a county employee in one of these positions. And they cross-reference that by with the Department of Assessments and Taxation records, and concluded, or at least estimated, that they believe there are 435 distinct owner-occupied properties that would be eligible for the tax credit at an annual cost of $1,087,500. They also looked at volunteer firefighters and emergency medical technicians and identified 405 properties that they believe would be eligible if the bill added them for an additional $1,012,500. Just a word about these fiscal impacts. The numbers may not be exactly right. And of course, if the goal is to encourage county employees to purchase homes in the county, you would assume then that the number is going to go up. If it's unsuccessful, then the number will stay the same. But if it's successful, and I assume you wouldn't do it if you didn't think it was going to be successful, that the number is going to go up. OLO did a economic impact statement, concluded that it could have a positive impact on economic conditions by increasing the net income of these employees and thereby increasing their ability to purchase goods and services from county businesses. But the positive impact would be limited because the tax credit wouldn't offset wouldn't offset the home prices in the jurisdiction. It wouldn't offset the lower home prices. In other words, Montgomery County is probably in Maryland one of the more expensive areas to purchase a home. It's not going to make people living in counties where the homes are cheaper. It's not going to make those homes any more expensive. So it may not encourage as many people as you might like. But that, of course, is speculation. We also got a racial equity and social justice impact statement, which was alluded to. They indicated that, OLO indicated that it would have a negative impact on racial equity and social justice because the eligible public safety personnel that would be benefiting by this tax credit are disproportionately white. They made two suggestions. One was to add correctional officers, which you could do in the bill because corrections officers are there's a much larger percentage of people of color working as correctional officers than police and fire. They also suggested a rental credit, a credit for renters. You can't actually do that in this bill. It's a property tax credit, so you can't get a property tax credit for a tax you don't pay. So that's really not something that can be done in this bill. You could provide increased pay for renters who live in the county, but really not under this bill. It would be part of the subject of this bill. So that's the racial equity and social justice impact statement. I know it's been discussed about volunteer firefighters and emergency medical technicians. I will point out they are not our employees. We do not have any information on how many volunteer firefighters actually don't already live in the county. Probably many of them do. So if the goal is to encourage people to move into the county, I'm not sure it's going to help with the volunteer firefighters. it's also the $2,500 credit is disproportional to the nominal fee that we already give them. The maximum fee that we give a volunteer firefighter based on the number of hours they work is, I believe, $900 currently for the year. This would be almost 3 times that. So it's disproportionate. It's, for the volunteer firefighters. If, it was pointed out, I've seen some correspondence, it's not in the packet, that other jurisdictions have done this for volunteer firefighters. That's true. They put in requirements with I think it's either some are 3 years, some are 5 years of continuous service. And I would suggest that you'd have to at least be eligible for the nominal fee for those years. Because there are volunteer firefighters that maybe don't really work a lot of hours. And if you don't work enough hours, you're not eligible for the nominal fee. That would be one way to at least keep track, if you're going to do it, to put in a requirement. We don't know how much that would cost, though. Presumably, logically, if you put in restrictions on 5 years continuous service and eligible for the nominal fee, it shouldn't increase the number. It should lower it from the estimate that finance has. And then the last issue discussed in the packet is really about, and this applies to everybody, including the volunteers, is the collective bargaining process. Providing a benefit like this is a mandatory subject of collective bargaining. Now, the council clearly has the authority to do this outside of the collective bargaining process. But there's a limited amount of money you can provide the employees for increases in salaries every year. The policy of the collective bargaining laws, which I've quoted, is that the decision as to how the money would be allocated among the different employees for wages and benefits is to be left to at least at first blush, to the collective bargaining process. So when you do something outside of the collective bargaining process, that could cost, let's say for the police and fire and the communication specialists that are already in the bill, over $1 million. That's $1 million that you don't have to pay wages and benefits to outside of that. You don't have unlimited funds. So what you'd be doing is doing something outside of the collective bargaining process. It actually is similar for the volunteers. They bargain collectively with the executive as well, and they have a collective bargaining agreement. So if this suggestion, or if this was an agreement in the collective bargaining agreement, then you would be doing it within the process of the collective bargaining law. And it would be something that the representative of the union decided this was, the union and the members would have decided that this is something that they want the county to spend its scarce resources on. But it's not. It's outside of that. Right now, and I don't even know the current status. I assume they've either working on agreements, new agreements, and Mr. Holland can probably tell us that about for the police. They're working on new agreements, or they're in arbitration, or they've already concluded agreements, but we're getting late in the game because the executive's budget comes out March 15th. So I don't believe, well, maybe this is part of it. I don't think so, though. So that's the issue of the collective bargaining issue. And happy to discuss the corrections officers. We don't have an estimate from finance for that. for what it would cost to include them. But I don't really see it.
Okay.
I think it's the same issue with police, fire, and corrections. I think if you're going to do it for one group, it probably makes sense to do it for all of them. But I'm not, but we don't have numbers for that because it wasn't in the original bill. It's not what finance looked at. I don't know if Mr. Covey has any updates on that, on the cost for corrections. He's here as well from finance. And I will say Mr. Wren is obviously here representing the correctional officers.
Okay, so I guess the way I would like to structure the conversation is that obviously, this bill has a lot of co-sponsors, so I think there's interest in this. So why don't we take one piece at a time? Because I know Councilmember Katz has a hard stop. I believe you said 3:30, right? And 3:15, and I think, and we have another item.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Trump, if you can just help me structure this. So I think, why don't we hear quickly from Mr. Wren and Holland whether they have significant problems with the issue of collective bargaining, so we can at least address that piece, and then I'm going to turn it over. Then we can go into the subject matter of the bill, and then we'll entertain whatever amendments there might be as well. Mr. Wren.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Council members, good to be with you. I have 2 quick points. Number one, dating back to even when I was a correctional officer in 1977, the Department of Corrections has always been an integral part of the Montgomery County public sector, public safety infrastructure. Leaving them out of this bill would be an extremely demoralizing message to the dedicated women and men who work in the shadows behind the walls and help keep our community as safe as their counterparts that work out on the streets. Our preference would be to have this be a product of an expedited collective bargaining process. I appreciate the council's efforts on trying to bring financial relief to our members, but to maintain the integrity of the collective bargaining process, that would be our preferred approach. That would not entail a long drawn-out process. We could immediately demand negotiations on this matter. We can fast-track the conversations and conceivably produce a memorandum of understanding between us and the executive. And, I'd have to obviously get agreement from President Holland and President Buttle. We may very well just be able to enter into a 4-way MOU with all the unions and the executive and get it back to the council very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Wren. Mr. Holland, anything you would like to add on that?
Yeah, I may have mentioned this to the executive administration a few weeks ago, that we should have an MOU that was signed and sent over while this process was going on, so that way we respected the collective bargaining process for each collective bargaining law in the county. So I 100% believe we should respect the collective bargaining process, but we 100% support this legislation. 100% believe that it could be a tool to help keep officers, firefighters, correctional officers, sheriffs in this county that's very expensive to live in. It's just a small step, but it's an important step.
Mr. Covey, so since this was brought up to the executive, was there anything that you bring to the session? I mean, I'm sure the executive and staff knew that we were going to have this particular item
right.
come up.
So
was that addressed?
I'm sorry, I don't participate in the collective bargaining process. I don't know if anybody from the executive branch who does is on this call, but I do not participate in that. So I was not aware of what Mr.
I know, but since
said.
you're the only one I think here that is representing the executive, I just thought perhaps.
Right. Well, I'll have to ask.
I understand.
Because I honestly don't know. As far as the fiscal impact statement is concerned,
Well, can we stop for a second?
officers,
I'm sorry. Can we stop for a second? I just want to dispose of this item first, Mr. Covey, and then I'll circle
Sure,
back.
sure. Sorry.
I know Councilmember Fisa has his hand up, but let me turn to the sponsors of the bill first, because obviously I think that this is an important issue to resolve before we move forward. So let me turn to Councilmember Albornoz, Council President Albornoz, who requested to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I very much appreciate and respect the comments of both Mr. Wren and Mr. Holland. Certainly understand where they're coming from. And just, I absolutely support adding our corrections officers to this. I just want to note that I implied it in my comment in support of the OLO recommendations, but just to state it more clearly, and I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way. But I did have a question, and I don't know if Mr. Drummer, you can answer this, or my colleagues in labor may be able to answer this too. I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to do this was to institutionalize this opportunity in perpetuity, so that it would not necessarily be subject to negotiations from future county executives or councils, that this is just part of the deal. But acknowledging that our county executive is clearly on record in support of this legislation and this notion, I just wanted to ask, whether this would be collectively bargained now, but does that mean it's in stone, that it will be done in perpetuity, or not? Would it then be subject to each subsequent collective? I can't imagine that our colleagues in labor would ever not want this, clearly, just from a practical standpoint. But what are the pros and cons of making sure that this is institutionalized?
Well, I can answer that. I mean, it would require a law. So there would be a memorandum of understanding between the union and the executive submitted to the council with proposed legislation, and the legislation would be enacted. So the end result would be the same. It would be in law. Now, of course, nothing is set in stone.
Right. I know.
The council could change that, but yeah, it would be the same. The effect would be the same.
Okay.
It would just come from a different avenue.
Got it. I understand, Mr. Wren, totally. So I'm certainly open to, just speaking for myself, if there's another way for us to get to the same place with the same result, I'm certainly open to that. But I yield to my colleague and friend, Councilmember Hucker, who's co-lead, to get his thoughts as well. And I may not have all of the angles here, so I'd love to hear from Mr. Holland on this too.
I'll turn to Councilmember Hucker. I think Mr. Holland did say that they would prefer to do this through the collective bargaining process, but let me turn to Councilmember Hucker, and then we'll see if we need to, defer and wait with a time certain to allow the process to go through. I think that, at least for myself, I'll just be for myself. Of course, I do support including correctional officers. I do support doing something as well for a volunteer and EMT. I think it's only fair, especially after this pandemic. We have seen the impact, and so we do want to, I think, follow the process, and also then be able to incorporate these additional very important employees. Councilmember Hucker.
I fully agree, Madam Chair. I prefer to include the correctional officers and the volunteers in some way. And, if the elected leadership of our employees wants to, do the MOU first and then have it followed up by legislation to make it a more lasting process that should hopefully help us recruit people and feel some certainty that it's not going to go away. That seems like a great process to me. I'm happy to defer to their lead. They are the closest to our employees and know what's likely to work. I think we all support the goal. So I'm agnostic on the method, how we get there.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, let me just restate this. So I think, at least from Mr. Holland and Mr. Wren, and then I'll turn to Mr. Bernard as well for any comments you want to make. But so what I'm hearing is that I think we all are on the same page in terms of the ultimate goal, right? Where we want to end up. We do want to be respectful of process. And so I think what I'm hearing is that I think we should take some time for all of you then to, and I'm sorry, Mr. Covey, I know that you're not the one that, deals with collective bargaining, but maybe you can also, send this back as well as Mr. Drummer. that the council stands ready, but we do want to respect the process, and we don't also want to wait for a very long time either, because this is definitely something we want to address, as soon as possible. And if that is the case and we're all in agreement, then we will just dispose of this item and wait and get to the second item, and then come back as soon as possible to address this through the proper processing channels. Mr. Wren, do you have your hand up? Okay. Oh, I think you're muted. Mr. Wren, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm in here talking to myself. I do that.
I saw that. Yeah.
In any event, I didn't know if you saw the hand because it was hidden in some of the information on my back screen. I'd like to make one clarification on the corrections piece. I would not want it restricted simply to corrections officer, because that's a very distinct job classification. We ran into trouble with this when we implemented the drop program for corrections. We got into this technical argument of corrections officer only folks in uniform. Well, what we need to be mindful of, it should be employees of Department of Corrections who are in the public safety retirement plan. Okay, just so we're clear on that.
Thank you. Hopefully staff is taking note of that. Mr. Holland.
I just request that we keep this bill rolling and maybe only delay a week or two, because I don't want this to get lost where other things have been lost before. And if the executive supports this, then he supports this. If he doesn't, we'll move forward and figure out another way. But I think we all support this, and we shouldn't just let this linger.
I think there's this psychic agreement going on here, because I believe that that's probably the concern that all my colleagues have, and I share that wholeheartedly. Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, I share that as well. I'm wondering if it makes sense for us to move forward through committee, and before we, and at the full council, if there's any, differences, or whether it makes sense, for us to do as suggested and kind of hold off. I mean, I think there's kind of two different viewpoints there, but, we're here. Time is of the essence. There's a lot of, there's support. I think there's some tweaks that, we have already discussed here related to volunteers and correction officers. That there are any further changes prior to full council, it would appear, if there's an MOU that needs to be reconciled, it seems to me that there would be an opportunity to do it there, but I'd be open to what other colleagues as well.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I can also turn to Councilmember Katz as the other co-chair. I think that, the council is going to go on recess next week. I think that's plenty of time for the executive and staff to come together quickly, and then we can schedule it for the week when we come back. And if we don't have anything, then we will have to address it that way and move forward. But at least I tend to think that we should at least, give that an opportunity to go through that particular process with that caveat as well, because we don't want to hold anything back. So respectfully.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that and comfortable with that. Yield to you and as co-chairs to determine that. I just wanted to signal, since I didn't talk in the beginning, that I'm very much in support of this. I am supportive of including volunteers and aligning with what other jurisdictions have done to determine an appropriate amount of service. A certain number of years, as appropriate, makes sense to me, as has been noted and discussed, and understand what Mr. Wren said, and know that Councilmember Hucker was going to propose the correctional officers, which to me seems to be appropriate and equitable. So I just wanted to make sure before we leave this conversation that I signal that, understand that we're not going to formally be moving that forward, but I was prepared to move forward, an amendment to include the volunteers, and just wanted to at least signal that to colleagues and to our partners on the call.
I appreciate it. I think we can memorialize this on the packet when we come back, so that this can be included and it can have that legislative history in it. I do get a text that I think Ms. Jennifer Harling is here. If she's here, she can perhaps chime in. Ms. Harling? Hi, I just want to give you an opportunity
yes,
to make sure
I am
that you
here.
heard what we discussed.
I did, yes. As Mr. Covey said, the county executive does support this, as many folks have said here today. And we think it does make sense to bargain this. But I am seeking clarification with the county executive on that, and we'll be able to circle back on that soon.
Okay, just please let him know that since the council is going to be on recess next week, that obviously there is that week, but that we will be coming back the week after to take this up. So we really do need this to be fast-tracked as well. Let's see. Mr. Bernard, I didn't give you an opportunity to speak, so if there's anything that you'd like to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And your volunteers, greatly appreciate all the council members who have discussed adding the volunteers to this. As we said, there are many other counties that have it, and we worked very hard 4 and 6 years ago in Annapolis with the enabling legislation. I'm confident, having talked with the executive, and he's been very supportive of the volunteers, that we can get it done. As noted, we also uniquely have collective bargaining, and we'll get it done in the time frame and support the unions in making sure we follow the process. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Council President Albornoz, did you still want to make some comments?
Yeah, just very quickly. And, you know, I got to say, we knew this hearing was happening, so I'm a little surprised that the county executive has not yet been briefed formally. But let's hope, and I do believe strongly that because he's so supportive, that we will get something back within the time frame that Chairman Navarro noted, and we all obviously support. But I just, for a little bit of background and context on why 5 years, and you know, as we talk about our partners in labor and our friends in labor working through a negotiation with the county exec, we looked at the fiscal impact. We looked at what Howard County has done. We've and now that we're especially expanding to other categories of positions, which is absolutely appropriate, we wanted to try and at least attempt to find a sweet spot. And so that's why we landed on the 5 years, especially as a recruitment tool, particularly in light of what we are experiencing right now. So just, you know, in the public domain, wanted to talk about, you know, why it was crafted in the way that it was, and the numbers were crafted in the way that they were. And we also did consult with and speak to our colleagues in labor as well in the development of this bill. And so, you know, just to provide a little bit more background and spirit. And I do really want to thank Ms. Farag, who did a lot of heavy lifting and some analysis and research that led us to this very successful point that we are right now, and gave us some background that was super helpful. And of course, Mr. Drummer for actually crafting the legislation. So as we turn this over to a negotiation, I just wanted to provide that context on why the 5 years, and look forward to seeing what the executive branch comes back with, so that we can move this forward as quickly as possible, because we need this on the street as quickly as possible, because we're having this problem in real time right now, significantly. And the last thing I wanted to mention too, and I'm not exactly sure how to phrase this, but I know that there has been frustration expressed by some that this council has not supported our first responders enough. And I, you know, it's important to note through legislation like this and many other steps that my colleagues take every day in expressing our appreciation, that we do publicly acknowledge the challenges of these professions, and that they're tough on a good day. And so this was another way for us to also uplift that work and let folks know among our first responders that this council absolutely supports them. Especially, you know, we need to establish a high bar, as we've always had. We need to ensure transparency. We need to ensure that everyone feels that they are equitably being part of this wonderful community of ours. But that is not an either or. And so that's the other thing I just wanted to mention too, and why it was so important for this council to move this forward beyond just the merits of what we've discussed so far.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you're absolutely right. One thing doesn't negate the other. And I look forward to the day when we're not engaged in, you know, these real divisive conversations, because unfortunately nothing is either or. And no doubt that whatever we can do to make sure we incentivize and that we show appreciation to our employees, we must do that, because this combination of pandemic and all of the other issues have come, I think, to just change the landscape completely. So we're all trying, and I really do appreciate everyone here everyone who's worked to get us to this point. And we will no doubt, spend the appropriate time going through the merits and the reasons why this is important. And we'll continue to identify ways to support and incentivize, because we always want to have the most qualified staff, and we want to make sure the morale is good, notwithstanding all of the stressors that are out there. So thank you, everybody. We will definitely reschedule this. We'll work with Ms. Farag and Mr. Drummer and the executive staff, Ms. Harlan, et cetera, to schedule this as quickly as possible.
Just
So, yes.
couple of quick questions. Yes. Just one, just so it's clear, the bill doesn't just apply to those employees who are represented by the unions. That's the majority, but there are unrepresented management employees that would also be covered by the bill. I assume you're in favor of that as well. And the second point is, I'm assuming you also would like a updated fiscal impact statement, including the additional groups that appear to be on the verge of being added to the bill. So
yeah, we do, because that's information that isn't, that would be needed for us to be able to make our decisions. So whatever we need when we come back, I think that we've all signaled very specifically what we would like to consider and want that included in the packet, which means that we will need to have the updated information. Yeah.
All right. And so the bill is being held in committee pending.
We're just going to reschedule. Yeah. We're going to reschedule it for
agreements from the unions and the executive.
Right. So I think what I heard from my colleagues, and they can clarify, is that because we're going to be on recess next week, we're giving the executive and the administration that time to work with our employee unions to develop this memorandum. If for some reason they don't do that, I mean, we're going to come back and consider the bill. So we're not going to, for some reason, just keep like delaying this and delaying this. You know, it has happened a lot before, so we don't want that to be the case. So we are going to be coming back. I see a lot of hands up. So before I move over, I think also Chairman Katz.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what's been said, but let me just say that this is one of those deals that the two committees are standing here tapping their foot and saying that you have whatever it is, the week, because we're off the next week, the week or 2 weeks, and we're coming back, and this has got to be done, and it has to be. And to Mr. Drummer's point, we need to figure out what type of legislation we would or could have after this. But this is something that needs to be done, and it cannot drag on, and include all of the people in it that need to be included. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson and then Mr. Holland.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate this. And I just wanted to note on the fiscal impact statement, if we could also have the information of, if we mirrored other jurisdictions, so it's not just a, blanket, here's the thought process of what it might be, but specifically either what is being proposed in the MOU or what has been discussed here, or both, that would be helpful in our deliberations. So I just wanted to note that if we said a certain number of years, then let's look at what that actually means in real numbers and calculate it. Of course, none of the fiscal impact statements are perfect. They're projections, but it would be helpful to have an understanding of what that would be if we actually made some of the decisions here that we were doing. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on President Albanaz talking about the first 5 years. I'm reading the packet and the draft language of the law. I don't see it limited to the first 5 years. Mr. Drummer, is that in there?
No, I think he was talking about the volunteers having to serve for 5 years before they'd be eligible.
Okay.
I think he was talking about police officers.
I just want to make sure when we make an MOU, we're making the right MOU. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification.
And I know Ms. Farag, she's always on top of things as well. So she'll chime in as you're all developing all of this. Great. So we will come back. I mean, the last thing I will say, echoing the comments of Council President Albanaz about, this not being either or. I think that a lot of times, folks, we all talk about how cool it is to have, people who come from the community that can work and occupy these particular positions and how important that is. But boy, is it difficult when affordability issues are in the way. And again, this is just one tool. We'll keep working on some other things, but no doubt we will work collaboratively to get it done. All right, everybody, thanks. I don't see any more hands. So we're going to move to the next item and appreciate everybody's work, and we'll be back. All right. Okay, so item number 2 is an amendment to the FY 21-26 Capital Improvements Program number 22-58, Montgomery County Government County Offices and Other Improvements, Dickerson Radio Tower. And with this particular item, it's a proposed amendment to the CIP, and it's to include a new project, the Dickerson Radio Tower. The executive is requesting this amendment to provide funding to build a 450-foot communications tower near the Public Safety Radio System Equipment Shelter in the Dickerson area of the county. It was introduced on January 25th, 2022, and the council held a public hearing on February 8th, 2022. There were no speakers. The executive advises that this amendment is needed because the Public Safety Radio System communication equipment is located on the Gen On Power Plant's smokestack, which is in the process of being shut down. This project is currently unfunded, and the executive plans to transfer $1.9 million in general obligation bonds and $100,000 current revenue from the Public Safety System Modernization Project. So with that, I will, unless Councilmember Katz or any of my colleagues have any comments. If not, I will turn it over to Ms. Farag to walk us through, and we can also engage in conversation with our esteemed guest if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is obviously a new project in its very, very beginning stages. The council went back and forth quite a bit when the public safety radio system was discussed a couple of years ago because of the delay of 2 towers. And during those discussions, there was a lot of concern about having adequate coverage down near the Potomac River, right? So that was initially my first concern, seeing that the switch was going to be made. The county just switched over to that new radio system last March. This new system uses redundant ring architecture, microwave radio technology, and it connects 22 county public radio sites. It's a self-healing type of technology in the case of a link failure, so I assume that this could work without that 1 tower, but that does not sound optimal. And I'll turn it over to Tebbs to discuss. In this project is Motorola, and they had worked with the county forever to ensure site selection was appropriate to ensure 95% coverage across the entire county. So Gen On is demolishing the smokestack. I think Tebbs told me, they have a 3-year window, but they could actually finish up before that. And so it's really imperative that the county gets a new tower appropriately sited, approved, and constructed, in time and system. It is unfunded. There is placeholder funding in the project right now. Money will be transferred from the PSSM project, and the Joint Committee will review that project on March 3rd, and it's approximately $2 million. And with that, I will just turn it over to Tebbs and the other stakeholders.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Mike. I'll let CIO Gail Roper see if she has any opening comments. Or
I think you're muted, Ms. Roper.
Sorry. Michael, please move forward.
Okay. I think Susan Frog kind of summed it up very nicely for us. As the county executive has noted from the very beginning, that he wants that power plant and the smokestack taken down. At the time we were building the current system, which again, we went live on March 9th, and it's been rock solid ever since. We've been making plans on making sure that particular leg of the entire 22 sites deserves an alternative to replace that smokestack. So what we're looking to do is build that tower there. We already did some initial analysis as far as siting, the coverage, with the height of it, And we feel that given the past experiences that we've been through, what we expect to happen is it's about, based on the other towers that we built, it's about a 1-year process to get all the building permits in place, going through the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and getting their approval, getting the land purchased, and then it's about 1 year to build it. So given that the lease is 3 years, we have about a year buffer. So we want to get started, and we get started as soon as this amendment is approved. And as far as the coverage, it's going to be exactly what it provides today. It'll cover the exact same area. There won't be any significant coverage reduction, and it's definitely required because that area out there, as many folks may know, it's very unpopulated. There isn't a lot of towers out there that we can even reside on. I don't think there's any towers out there. And that's why the smokestack has played such a critical role in the old system and in the new system. So Genon, and I think they may have been sold again. They're in bankruptcy. They, I don't know, they reluctantly agreed, but they agreed to a 3-year lease. And so we're the clock's ticking, and we're kind of moving forward with that. So.
Thank you for that. Okay, anybody else with any questions? Chairman Katz, anything you would like to add?
No, I'm happy to make a motion that we do this. I don't think we have a whole lot of leeway not to. So if it's appropriate, I move that we approve this.
Is there a second? Is this for purposes?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Friedson. And I think what I'll say is that without objection, to believe that this is, a necessary thing. And I see a lot of nodding, no objections. So with that, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think probably a 6, given the Councilmember Friedson is a.
No, I'm
no, you're not a twofer. Councilmember Katz is the twofer.
Yeah, I'm a
keep
twofer.
it all together here. Keep it all straight. All right, so it's unanimous by the Joint Committee. Okay, I think with that, we're adjourned with the Joint Committee session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.